That's
Oh my. Are you incensured? I don't think you're quite censured. But it does make my voice sound like Mr. Sue.
Actually.
Oh my. Now I can also imitate, let's see, what is it? I can imitate, Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman.
Everyone poops.
Everybody poops. And I can imitate John Travolta. Your friendly bartender! Oh.
What the hell?
What was I smoking?
Smoking something. Well, the toy show is coming up.
Yes.
Well, I guess this is a blurb for the toy show.
Yeah.
Yes, the annual Super Toy Fair Show, held on by Time Tunnel Toy Collectibles, is doing it again, and the Cal-Cat Show will be there. Well, not at a booth, but we will be there, walking around attending. And no, we're not guests. That'd be awesome, but no, we're not that popular.
Not this year.
They're gonna have Linda Blair and somebody from Farscape.
Yeah, I meant to look up on the website who the other guest
lady
was.
Yeah. The one with the eyes.
But yeah, Linda Blair. If you're of our generation and a horror fan, you have to know who she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well,
She was a little girl in The Exorcist.
That was the one that put her on the map. But all through the '80s, she was in so many really cult classic-y, horror
at least
movies.
One that I can recall.
Well,
one or two. How many was she in?
Of what?
Horror movies.
Oh, horror, lots. Look on her IMDb. She like all through the '80s. She did a bunch of them. I think into the '90s.
Yeah. So
the only one I can honestly say I regret having seen was this spoof called Repossessed. It was. The joke was the title. That was they pretty much ran out of gas at that point, but she's good, and so yeah, she'll be there, and I don't know what they're going to be asking for an autograph. It seems like anymore it's like $50 for, pretty much any signature.
The book that they based The Exorcist on. Originally, it was a boy. He's possessed.
Oh,
by
really? I did not know that.
Yeah. Like The Omen, kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
Except in The Omen, he was supposed to be.
In The Omen, he actually was like the spawn of Satan. Whereas The Exorcist did this really interesting thing where, even though it's really obviously demonic possession, they sort of play it like it's ambiguous for at least part of the movie.
That was one with that backwards stairway scene.
Yeah, the spider walk up the back or down the stairs. It was kind of a notorious, really creepy effect, actually.
It's one of the first horror movies I ever saw, and I was like 10.
Yeah,
because my sister wanted to freak me out. Said, "Here, watch The Exorcist."
The thing that I have discovered about The Exorcist is,
but that part didn't freak me out so much.
No,
it was the doctor scene with the neck.
The needle in the neck is. I have a hard time watching that, and I know it. I love like splattery, cheesy '80s movies. The thing about The Exorcist that I've discovered over the years is, well, pretty much everybody agrees that it's a classic and that it's a brilliantly made movie. Its status as a scary movie seems to depend largely on whether you're Catholic. Because everybody I've talked to who's Catholic, that's like the scariest movie they've ever seen. Whereas
maybe they haven't seen a lot of scary movies.
Well, if they're really devout, maybe they haven't, but maybe they have to watch The Exorcist in church or something. That'd be kind of awesome.
That wouldn't happen. But that would be interesting.
What if I was running a church?
That would be the kind of movie that Kirk Cameron should actually do.
Oh man, if Kirk Cameron,
a possession movie.
If you ever see this,
Kirk Cameron,
please mount a low-budget remake of The Exorcist starring you. I want to see as every part.
Every part.
Every role. You're including the Linda Blair part. I want to see this.
In a dress. With potato cheese soup coming out of your mouth.
It's got to happen.
In a car. Oh.
And then it'll be remade from the remake a couple years later with Nicolas Cage for virtually no reason.
Although he had nothing to do with Left Behind. I mean, technically not. Kirk Cameron had nothing to do with Left Behind.
No, he starred in the first one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did he? Oh my God.
Yeah,
I guess he did.
Exactly.
Oh God.
You are forgiven
but he didn't
for
write it
that.
though. Yeah, he did.
No, he was in it. I think his company might have produced it or something. But
yeah, it was a Tim.
There was a brief time in the early 2000s when Kirk Cameron was actually sort of a viable box office draw, at least for the church crowd.
Yeah,
that didn't last. But
no, they still
keep cranking out those hits.
They didn't watch the Christmas one in our church, though. They said no.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
They didn't
when
want to
your
watch
church says no, we're going to.
They didn't say no, but they didn't mention it.
But they showed you the one where he played a firefighter, which.
Yeah, and the cop one.
Maybe not the most convincing casting.
And the potatoes one where they're honoring potatoes or Faith and Potatoes.
Faith and Potatoes? I think I missed that one. Yeah, that would have all been.
So, anyways, I guess the toy show. We're going
to
the toy
we're going to go to the toy show.
Probably cut out the part about the
about 2 days.
toy show. Yeah, yeah. So, well, it'd be kind of funny to include that.
I just leave it up to you. I just blather and let you get out your editing scissors and do whatever.
This is funny. But maybe we should leave it just to be snarky.
Exactly. But it's kind of funny. Or it's just like a different clip. That's how fairly recent it's been. That
Well, the tobacco companies are into that stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, teach the controversy.
And now they're running cereals companies.
Yeah.
And then they have like. It's curious though that when the Native Americans introduced the white man to tobacco, they weren't like out to get him or anything, but the Native Americans knew restraint, and they were like, okay, this is this weed that we sometimes chew and stuff, but only use it a little bit.
Did the Native Americans actually introduce the Europeans to tobacco?
Yep. So they knew something was wrong with it because they didn't use it so much.
Hey, need to bone up on my history. I didn't know that.
But they didn't know what it was. You know, they just gave it to them.
Well, I mean, the Europeans were not here to practice moderation, pretty much in any area, except.
Well, maybe they didn't say in moderation. Maybe they said something like, "Oh, we don't really use it that much." Maybe is what they really said. But it'd be funny if they said like, but like they said that about peyote and marijuana and stuff. So maybe it was all of those herbs. They said, "Oh, only the shamans use it and stuff once in a while," and maybe that's what they meant.
Could be.
So it wasn't like they knew that it was bad for you. They just didn't use it. Maybe that was it.
Yeah. I have no idea. Outside my realm of knowledge. That's what Wikipedia is for.
Yeah, maybe I read the wrong stuff. I don't know.
Could be. I have no idea.
Doesn't surprise me. But no, it's not a conspiracy. They didn't.
No.
Nobody knew. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the how many not just celebrities but just people over the decades up until fairly recently.
All of the Marlboro men ended up.
They all died of lung cancer.
So that tells you right there. There's a test group right there.
It's really
Marlboro men. One of them died of something else. All the other ones died of lung cancer.
I forget what the context was, but
probably a slash fiction story.
Probably.
Because that's what they're famous for nowadays. Because they're old and you look back and joke about how Captain Kirk, Spock, Captain, I wish to satisfy you in every way.
Yeah, it's kind of like before the internet. When you went to a Star Trek convention, there was all your usual collectibles and the actors signing autographs and booths with toys and all this stuff. There was always the section in the dealer's room. There'd be a couple guys with these just boxes and racks of fanzines. And they would have covers of, that were like, here's Spock, but dressed for no reason as like the harem master of a Roman like sex slave camp. And Kirk is his slave boy.
That was a classic.
And the title would just be something like, whipped. Like whipped. Stirred and whipped. And, and it was just like they were, and these things would be like novellas. And there were like thousands of them, and it was just kind of like this really interesting subculture of. They didn't call it back in the day. I think
KS.
It was called KS for Kirk / Spock /
We made Picard / LaForge.
Yeah, but ours were supposed to be funny.
Ours were joking.
Some of them you could tell like right off the bat if it was all florid and had like 30 pages of foreplay, then it was clearly meant to be serious. But if it started with Kirk whipped it out,
then they're just being funny.
But there were some actually really funny ones. But it was just interesting that there was like right from the beginning, there was this subculture that fixated on these characters, and it goes to show you like how really deeply entrenched the fandom was right off the bat. Like people just gravitated to Star Trek and projected onto it.
You won't find Picard LaForge on the internet, so don't even look for it.
No, our stuff.
It never went out.
Actually, our stuff existed only as paper zines. like
we had some
the
zines.
classic ones. This was all before the
So
internet.
unless somebody took some of our stuff and scanned it in, I don't think anybody did. But
actually, one of them did make it into circulation unofficially. Two of them.
Yeah, there was Deep Space 69, and Star Trek Masturbations.
Yeah, great titles. we were teenagers. What can you say? Actually, I think you were in your young 20s. But what we did was we didn't actually have a contract with one of the guys. Who was always at these cons, and he always had these big racks. So we smuggled in our house-made copies. And when he wasn't looking, we were like,
with a price tag.
With a price tag, and I mean, people could have bought these. We don't know where these ended up. We just walked away, and
yeah, we didn't pay for them.
Technically, we gave the guy free merchandise to sell. So. But he probably was boxing stuff up and going like, okay, here's whipped and stirred. Here's claiming the captain's buttocks. Here, what the hell is Deep House 69? I don't remember this one. I just wonder, like, is it still in a box somewhere in storage? Did it make its way? It's probably going to show up on the internet like 10 years from now.
I'll type it in later.
Who knows? But
then, of course, Deep Space Nine, the blasphemy.
Oh yes, the blasphemy. That was one of our go-to words.
That was a later one.
Blasphemy.
And the joke was that the evil Kai Wynn comes onto the station because we were annoyed about the finale, and we're like, you know what?
Yeah.
You know what'd be funny? Is if like instead of them like wanting to kill each other, they decide to do each other. And they're like, okay, she's all, I, the holy dildo, Kira. She's like, which?
Well, at first she's like, do you know what this is? And
she's all, that's blasphemy,
she's holding up this giant ceramic dick. And she's like, that is the sacred penis of Comtal. And she's like, no, it is the holy dildo of Kira. And you must fuck me with it, Kai Wynn. She's like, but that's blasphemy, child. She's like, shut up. And then it just kind of went on from there. I still remember the dialogue. It was hilarious.
Star Trek voyeur.
Clearly these ones were not meant to actually be like fat material. These
we were
supposed
clearly
to
joking.
We were kind of spoofing actually the Slash fanzines because we would always buy them. We would go to the cons and we picked the one with the most outrageous cover.
One was hilarious.
There was a lot of those. People really picked up on their
really well illustrated, well drawn picture of what appeared to be like Garrick and Bashir lovingly sitting next to each other, like.
Weren't they like sharing a malt or something?
Like they had like a Sunday, and he had his shirt open, his hairy chest.
It was awesome.
And he's like, oh my god, somebody spent a lot of time drawing this with a pencil. Holy shit.
To each his own. I mean, I never thought the Kardashians were hot myself.
I think the funniest one was somebody drew like a picture of Captain Kirk behind his chair, naked.
Oh yeah,
the chair in front of him, and he's like.
There was a whole bunch of those naked on the bridge ones that like there was some of
you couldn't see anything.
It would just be like a day in the life of on the bridge, and everybody's going about their business. But Kirk is like lounging in his chair, just wedding tackle flopped out, completely nude, except for like maybe a belt with like a phaser on it, and he's just kind of like, and it's just like, yeah, I could see Shatner actually probably
back in the day
thinking that this would be a great idea.
Anyways,
but anyway, the thing is though, it's going to be really interesting to see like.
Won't be as many dealers. That's why the conventions have gone away. Nobody wants to sell anything.
Yeah, the internet's basically run the merchandising out of business, and that was
that's what killed the conventions.
Because that was where most of the money came from.
Those dealers' rooms. I think one of the last one or two that we were at was like they had to combine them into Masonic Center. They had to like do a bunch of sci-fi shows. There was I think it was Enterprise.
Yeah, and there was like
Connor Trinner and the other guy.
Like Andromeda was there or something.
Andromeda was there. A little bit of Stargate was there. Voyager, Icheb and Nog from Deep Space Nine.
And they had a bunch of actors.
And Michelle Nichols was there. She was in her late 70s. And they had the chick from Xena. And Jim, our friend Jim, brought this up again because he wasn't invited. But we didn't even know what. Really, at the time, honestly, we didn't know that we knew Xena existed, but we didn't know that Hudson Leak was a big deal. So we went to the convention and we're like, oh, that's the other chick from Xena. Yeah, I bet Jim would like to be here, but
well, hindsight is always 20/20.
But yeah, it's like
The thing is, though, I don't think
he could have afforded it or handled it.
She was.
He would have been the guy in the audience that tried to embarrass himself. Yeah.
Yeah, and oh my God,
there was a guy that embarrassed himself.
You always run into that at the conventions, and it's like half the reason to go is just like.
Like that lady that wailed and ran away, you know.
Yeah.
Some guy in the audience, Hudson Leak is really hot, and back then, you know, when she was like, and this guy was like hitting off on her.
Yeah, didn't he just say like, "Do you want to go out on a date with me or something?"
He said something kind of sleazy.
Like, "Oh, I want you to like come."
He's like, even Callista couldn't handle you. Oh, he would kill you. And he's like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
I'm not saying I would. I'm saying that Callista would kill you. She would eliminate you or something. Which was funny that she was in character at that point.
Yeah, but it's always fun to just, witness the interaction between the stars and the fans, because at a convention, the sort of the wall.
We haven't done one in years. There hadn't been one in years. We would have gone. Yeah,
well, there hasn't been. Yeah, when was the last official Star Trek convention around these
2002.
Yeah, I mean they
in San Francisco. You'd think they would have. If they're gonna have them anywhere, they'd have them there.
You would think. I mean, they still do. Yeah. There are conventions, but they're not specifically Star Trek anymore. Yeah, Nimoy was very in touch with his Jewish ancestry, as is Shatner.
Is Shatner Jewish?
He is.
I thought he was Canadian.
There are no Jewish people in Canada. Don't tell me.
What are you talking about? Benjamin Netanyahu. But yes, Greeting Crow.
But yeah, look it up. It's
Counting Crows I've heard of. They're a rock group.
Yes, well, alt rock kind of, but
yes.
Yeah, but their name doesn't have anything to do with eating crow. No, look it up when we're
magpie.
4 and 20 blackbirds baked in pie.
Yes, I have heard that.
I had a magpie. No, he didn't actually get on my shoulder, but he was really close. At an animal park, they had this really tame magpie, and for whatever reason, this magpie was obsessed with men. Like, ran away from women, but anytime a man came around, this magpie was like
swinging.
Yeah, like we would follow men around, and so like almost got on my shoulder one time.
Well, in one of our Kirk Spock parody models, I believe Captain Kirk decided to have pleasure with a pterodactyl woman known as a pteramorph.
Yes.
And he got chirpy.
He contracted a disease, and the gag was, he goes to sick bay, and
42.
McCoy's like,
"My God, Jim,
you've got herpes simplex 42. You can only get it from bird women. We call it chirpy." But of course, it was the future, so we could cure it with a little hypo spray.
Good thing you came in here when you did, Jimmy boy. Your tallywhacker would be falling off.
Because that's one of the running gags. Because the thing is that in the show, Kirk was always hooking up with anything female with a pulse, and so in the Slash stories, they kind of took that idea and ran with it. It wasn't all just Kirk and Spock. It would be Kirk and pretty much anything.
And of course, in the Next Generation versions, we would have we had Yar apparently get seduced by a lizard man, and then we had Sulu voice over it because we combined the series and we had to go the next day. Yar walked as if she had a broom up her ass.
Apparently the lizard guy was
he went where
robust.
Some men have gone before. Let's say. Yes.
I think we drew a picture of that in class. And then waited until it was really quiet, and he slipped it over towards my desk, and I started going.
No, it was really realistic.
Along with the initial use of the word decimated was actually
earlier.
at Pine Hill, and that was in one of the Silly Trek stories. And there was just something about how the saucer section had been decimated, and for whatever reason, the use of that word in that context was the funniest thing.
Well, I drew the saucer section from the Doomsday Machine, and I drew it all torn up and ripped apart.
And
when I put these comic book letters over it, and it said decimated.
I laughed my ass off for half an hour.
Here you go.
Of course, everything is funnier in school when you're trying not to laugh at something. So that's why if you end up watching any of the
I believe
our
that
Trek
decimated
fan films,
literally means cut into 10 pieces.
yes. Although in our context, it just meant royally screwed. But if you watch any of our Trek fan films, you'll note that the word decimated pops up a lot. That's why.
Ooh, as well as somebody saying, "Damn it, Jim!"
Yeah.
Including McCoy walking onto the Enterprise D because he didn't know they weren't in the same universe and saying hello to Kirk and to Picard and everybody.
That was because at the time
you didn't know they weren't
you
related.
were watching Next Gen obsessively and talking about it constantly as though I knew what you were talking about.
And you made this surreal version of it.
And so I decided to write a
which
fan
was actually
story
pretty funny.
without realizing what I was doing. So I was
actually
familiar
pretty
with classic
creative.
Trek, so I put those characters in with the characters that you had been taught, because I knew the characters from Next Gen just because you talked about them all the time. So
And you made Data kind of like C-3PO, which was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
And when he was all like C-3PO crossed with the Tin Woodsman or something, and he like comes out and he's all wooden and metallic and stuff, and he's all like, "Yes, Captain."
Yeah, he's like
he's got like parts of him hanging out of him and like a tinfoil hat. And you look like Tin Woodsman.
I guess it's because you only talked about him, and I knew he was an android, but I didn't know what he looked like.
So you described him as C-3PO crossed with the Tin Woodsman.
Oh yeah.
And he walks out and he's all like, which was funnier actually. And he's like,
What about that?
And then he
I
comes
hope we
out.
still have this story somewhere.
It's called Shades of Pink, I believe.
Well, that was the first slash you wrote. Was that Shades of Pink?
You know what?
I didn't think Shades of Pink had McCoy in all of them.
Near the end. Or isn't it that one? Yeah, no, maybe it was...
I don't think so, because
no,
the first
it was the right hand of Libyan.
Yeah,
is what it was.
Yeah, the first
the
one
right
wasn't
hand
a
of
slash
Libyan.
story. It was like PG-ish. PG.
Yeah, that's right, because he comes out and he goes, "I'll cure the Libyan." Yeah, and he's all... And the Libyan was there.
Yeah, reference to...
somebody from Pine Hill.
Well, also...
In Libya. Well, Back to the
Future.
More or less. Yeah, we were just like, we didn't know who they were. It's
Yeah.
sort of like we'd throw in random names.
Right, it wasn't supposed to be a personal slight so much as just...
or even a slight to the Libyans. It was just that we were...
Yeah, we just thought it was funny.
We just thought the word sounded funny, because it sounded like somebody we knew.
But yeah, that was kind of like my imitation of Next Gen without having seen it.
And you made Riker all burly and stuff, and he had like
it would
fake
be fascinating
muscles
to go back and reread that, because of course now I've seen Next Gen, and it would be really interesting to see like where my head was at trying to imagine this show as it existed in my mind just from hearing about it from you. Because I think you just assumed that everybody was watching it.
You got Troy pretty spot on though. That was funny. Because like for some reason you took the well, we knew what counselors were like.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of those.
Like, so you made her like sort of like Joyce crossed with like Lisa or something.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, it was just kind of like an old version of Troy, basically.
Yeah.
And she's an older version
First
of Troy.
season Troy.
And she's like walking around, like 7th season Troy, or maybe a little later, And she's walking around like, oh, the problems, oh my head.
I think I was channeling some of Pine Hill too.
and then Riker was of course acting.
Yeah, wasn't he like?
He had the suit of Vaseline.
Like suit of like yeah.
And she comes up and goes, and she pops him.
Oh yeah, and his bicep deflates.
And he's like, oh, I think that was Shades of Pink though.
That was Shades of Pink because that had the Aslo triamate donuts that
and
turned
we
out
made
to be
LaForge gay
aphrodisiacs.
because in the first season he acted that way.
The thing is,
he was pretty sure really hyper in that season.
I'm pretty sure he was originally in concept supposed to be because that was Roddenberry's progressive stance on let's put in a minority character that we haven't seen yet. So he wasn't just going to be African American. He was going to be blind and I think gay.
Because the first season he was acting really, really out there.
And it was
far out.
Honestly, I think that had to do more with just the scripts being sort of weird and like everybody sort of feeling out their characters. Like, how do I play this? So I mean, yeah, it's certainly not a knock against anything, but everyone was just
so excited.
A little weird. It wasn't just him. Like Data was weird acting in the first season. Like he wasn't supposed to have any emotions,
but he did.
But he kept saying things like, "Oh, how easily that whistling comes to you, my friend."
That was the pilot. They didn't know what they were doing yet.
Really? No emotions? Because you sound like you're about to make out with him.